Hello, Sarah.
Now, you're back to fight for Bradfield for a second time. This time round, there's no anti-Morrison vote. Climate is lower down the list of people's priorities. Gender as well, not the top issues anymore. Does that dent the teal appeal?
Well, the support for the major parties hasn't just declined in the last 3 years. This has been happening for the last 30 years, and that's because of the behaviour of the major parties over that last 30 years. I think people are feeling that they're no longer being represented by the parties. They're acting often with vested interests in mind and really just to get re-elected. People are looking for some representatives that value their values and can see their views reflected in what they take forward. I've been door knocking with volunteers, 1,300 of them now, around 25,000 doors, and people tell me they just want someone who's got a positive solution, some hope, a vision for our country to the issues that impact them, like affordability on childcare, for example.
Now, I referenced in the introduction the outgoing MP Paul Fletcher, frontbencher for the coalition. He called Teal MPs as a group a giant green left con job, not mincing his words. How do you respond to the allegation that you're just a proxy for the Greens?
Well, firstly, I want to say I do respect Mr Fletcher's public service for the last 15 years as our member, but I don't respect that kind of, I suppose, call-out. And he's previously insulted as well people that have been conned for voting independent. There's hundreds of thousands of people who voted independent in 2022, and I imagine there's going to be even more in 2025. These people can make up their own mind. I would never insult somebody voting any other party. That's up to them. So it's kind of the behaviours and the antics that we've come to expect in party politics. People are tired of it and they just want representatives who can work with the constructive solutions around policy reform on things like climate and housing.
Right, we'll come back to climate in a minute, but just in terms of understanding who you are and where you fit in, how much of your funding comes from Climate 200? What proportion?
So we've got over 1,000 independent donors, of which most of them come from Bradfield, and the 20,000 odd donors to Climate 200 make up around about a third of our donations.
What do they get in return for that?
They get the sensation of knowing that there will be possibly a representative in Bradfield and in other electorates across the country who are also advocating for the things that they want, such as stronger action on climate, and on better integrity and accountability in Parliament.
Now, I think Simon Holmes-a-Court from Climate 200 called out a big last-minute fundraising push, saying the Teals were under pressure everywhere. Were you part of a call for more funding for Bradfield from Climate 200?
It's a really, really tight seat in Bradfield this time. It has been, when I ran in 2022, one of the safest Liberal seats in the country, 75 years, 5 Liberals. So it is a really close contest now since North Sydney was abolished and a third of it's become part of the new Bradfield. It's neck and neck. So, yeah, it's a really tight contest, and any funding that we can have, particularly even from Climate 200, is very, very well received.
Now, as you just referred to, you're back again for a second time. What did you learn first time round? What's different in your campaign this time?
It is. It's not necessarily about party personalities of leaders. This is now, we've had 3 years of a Labor government. People are still feeling very disenfranchised that neither major party, this close to an election day, has offered up reform solutions to the issues that they're feeling are issues like competition in supermarkets, like bringing down the cost of power bills.
Well, Peter Dutton had a policy on supermarkets, talked about divestment.
And a lot of the other policies that are coming about are either inflationary or they're sugar hits. They're not the reform agendas that people are really expecting.
Would you support Peter Dutton's policy on the supermarkets, possibly breaking them up, and obviously the hardware chains?
I have some other solutions on supermarkets, like muscling up the ACCC to have a look at alleged price gouging, and we've had that report as well.
So is that a no on divestitures? That's not part of your
It's not
plan?
at the moment. I'm always open to seeing what we can do to increase competition, but we've got issues like land banking as well, which is squeezing out small retailers, and unit pricing is very, very difficult for consumers to decide how and what to buy, and sometimes it's tempting to suggest that's not unintentional.
And just you personally, what did you learn about yourself first time round that's been useful or unuseful this time?
Well, it's really that we didn't expect to do so well in 2022. We thought it might have just been it was just such a surprise. And when the volunteers said to me, shall we run again and keep going, I can't believe now that we are literally neck and neck with the Liberal contender. And it shows to me that this concept of independence is not just a blip. It's just another data point in what is a trend. And people are desperate for better representation, and they look to independents and smaller parties to get done the hard structural reform that the major parties just don't seem to be able to get done.
And just to come back to that relationship with Climate 200, what's the best piece of advice you got from that group?
No advice, actually. They're a crowdsourcing group, and I'm very grateful for their contribution because they do some of the heavy lifting on fundraising. That lets me get out, door knock, have kitchen table conversations, listen to people, and spend time working on the policy solutions that people want to those structural issues.
Does Simon Holmes à Court offer you advice?
No, he doesn't.
Now, let me just talk about a specific thing that happened that came up again in this campaign, and it dates back to 2022 when someone in your campaign posted on social media looking for funds using creating stereotypes around Jewish people. Now, you did respond quickly when you found out about that post. Bradfield has the second largest Jewish population, I think, in New South Wales. Can you undo the damage that did with the voters?
It was... that volunteer post was a scourge. It was an anti-Semitic trope that I apologised about straight away. It's really important that political leaders do stand up and call that out. And I think what I hope that the communities in and across, not just Bradfield, but across the country, know that I'm new to politics. I've got a finance background. This level of scrutiny, I think that the community and the public demand of politicians is good. But when I do make a mistake, I will own up to it, I will apologise, and I will definitely learn. And something like anti-Semitism is something that every single leader, no matter what colour jersey they're wearing, must call it out.
You just referred to your background in finance, and that background, of course, is in part in clean energy finance. So, as we said, the last election, climate was a huge issue, but in a different way to this time. This time the divide is really essentially comes down to the renewables debate and nuclear. When it comes to nuclear energy, first of all, is it an issue for people in Bradfield, the coalition's policy on nuclear energy?
What's an issue, I think, for people in Bradfield from those 25,000 doors that we've knocked is that they are feeling the cost of living crisis acutely. And one of the big parts of that is power bills. And people want relief on those power bills now, not in 20 years, which is what the coalition policy is proposing. We've got to bring down power bills with renewable energy, with more battery energy storage. Those are the kinds of things that are now.
I think they would claim that their nuclear plan is in less than 20 years, but we're not going to have a discussion here about how long it takes to build a nuclear reactor. You could be walking into, were you to be successful on Saturday night, you could be walking into a very interesting situation where it is a hung parliament. Have you sought advice already on how to handle that if that happens?
Had conversations with people in our volunteer group as well about those things. Yes, it's really, if we do find ourselves with a balanced parliament, that's a very good thing. That will be because the people of Bradfield have chosen different this time, and they really do believe that having a stronger and larger crossbench will give us the best chance of getting done some of those reform agendas that the major parties can't.
So have you sought advice from other community independents, particularly those who've been through a parliament, on how to handle what's ahead, how to game out the possible alternatives?
I certainly had an audience with Rob Oakeshott and
Tony Winter.
Tony Winter, thank you.
And maybe Bob Catter as well, I don't know.
At the end of last year, and they told me what not to do. So
what was the principal piece of advice?
I won't be doing any deals with anybody. I'm going to be in the parliament. I'll be voting every single time on the merits of the policies, each time with expert opinion and what the people in Bradfield really want to see in national policy. But on supply and confidence, if that comes down to it, what a great responsibility. And the three things that I'd look at really importantly is a stable parliament working in the best interest of our nation. Secondly, who's got how many seats? That's a really important factor too. And thirdly, which parties can make the biggest concessions towards the policies that I've taken to the people of Bradfield. They know about it. I've put a policy booklet into everybody's letterbox. Those things like universal childcare, like bringing down power bills with renewables, and like helping cut red tape on small business.
So you could imagine supporting Peter Dutton with confidence in supply, notwithstanding what you were saying about nuclear energy versus renewables?
I'm genuinely open to working with whomever can make the biggest concessions towards those policies that I've taken to the people of Bradfield, and if I have the privilege that they elect me, and then I will prosecute those agendas.
We wish you the best of luck on Saturday night, and thank you very much indeed for taking the time and having the courage to come in and face a big national programme. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Sarah.